After 2 rounds, the regular faces are nowhere to be seen at the top of the points chart. Not the multi-time champions, not the new hot shoes, and not the regular frontrunners. Nope, it's the driver who snagged an 11th and a 2nd in the first 2 events, Martin Grandberg. That is just how topsy-turvy things have been. Will Suzuka return to the normalcy, or will Martin be able to carry this on and hold the points lead? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Peter Mackay. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Suzuka will be a tough one and test even the best driver's ability to wheel the car. Let's head to our track guide to understand why. Welcome to Suzuka Circuit, perhaps most famous for its hosting of the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix for much of the event's history. This track sees all sorts of racing besides that. In fact, this place began as a test track for Honda, but later proved to be a driver and fan favorite for competitive motorsports as well. The full layout of the Grand Prix course steals the show, but there's actually 5 different versions that can be run on iRacing. With their lap lengths ranging from just over 2 kilometers to nearly 6 kilometers, plenty of different types of cars can suit the track. GT racing and lower-level open-wheelers are quite popular, but motorcycles are also a staple here. Some of the corners have become world-renowned over the years. The S's are often cited as one of the great tests of a driver's technical prowess. Then, of course, there's Degner's 1 and 2, which provide very little runoff considering their fast and narrow entry. Later on, the long backstretch leads up to the notorious 130R, which is blindingly fast. The Casio Triangle offers one last chance at an overtake if you're brave, but has been the scene of many drivers clattering into one another over the years. F1 fans will be quick to cite the infamous coming together here between Senna and Prost. However, real-life visitors will find it's more than the racing that provides some viewing pleasures. The unique ways in which the Japanese fans celebrate their favorite cars and drivers certainly capture your attention. But it's no wonder they're such fanatics, because who wouldn't be with one of the world's greatest tracks right in your backyard? This is one of the more historic and classic tracks from around the world, very well known. But in case we have viewers that haven't heard of this place, Peter, why don't you tell us about how it's going to be with these Lotus 79 cars around here?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here today, Joe, for the Lotus 79 Sunday Series here at one of the finest race circuits anywhere in the world, Suzuka. This is a circuit which really puts the demand of aerodynamic grip at its absolute maximum. A lot of the modern day Formula One drivers will tell you that this is the greatest challenge, particularly for the neck muscles. When you come through the opening section, the snake, you're just hanging on for dear life. And then through corners like Spoon Curve and, well, what is in this car, the completely flat out 130R. It's a proper track. And this Lotus 79, with the first car ever to use ground effect aerodynamics successfully in Grand Prix racing, well, it's a track where you can really drive this car to its absolute limit.
And speaking of driving the car to the limit, many have gone over the limit, and that's why our points look the way they do. I already mentioned Martin Grandberg leading, but Severi Seppa, at least we have one Finn who we tend to see up at the front, still within the top 5 and only 3 points back. Now, Nick Johnson, another one that we don't usually see this high up in the points and not really challenging for wins at all, but he's in 3rd. Paul Williams has picked up the pace recently, and his consistency has put him into 4th, with Jamie Fluke only showing up for the first round and unfortunately not able to make the rest of the races. Still remains in the top 5 despite only attending one of the 2. Now, of course, they have the Classic Teams Championship, which is what a lot of this series is predicated on. So why don't you run us down that, Peter?
So, well, one thing that makes me very, very happy indeed, Elf Team Tyrrell are at the top. Of course, the team which Sir Jackie Stewart won all of his 3 world titles with, and also manufacturer of some very tasty potato chips here in the UK. Second is Copper Sucker Fittipaldi Automotive with John Player Special Team Lotus in 3rd. Equip Renault Elf are 4th, and Williams Grand Prix Engineering in 5th.
Now, are you talking about chips that you guys call chips or crisps?
Well, I thought better use potato chips as a kind of more generic term, but yes, I mean crisps for our British viewers. Yes.
Okay, you had me confused for a second just because I expected the other out of you. Meanwhile, let's go to the race details for today. We're at round 3 out of 12, 23 laps, because it takes a while to get around here as fast as these cars are. They are open setup. The community's pretty open themselves, honestly, about those, so you can get onto the forums and get a little bit of help with that if you are just starting out on this car trying to race. And you can see the penalties that they will accrue if they have too many off tracks. There's definitely some places where they can fall victim to that and use some of the modern paved runoff to abuse it. You don't want to do that too much because you will get a drive through or a stop and go. We're still waiting on our first qualifying times to come in as we see Freesia come out of the Casio triangle and down to the line. Let's see what it's going to be. It looks like, oh, he's just on an outlap right now, so he hasn't even started one. Do we have anybody here getting one in? Martin Granberg. There we go. Our points leader puts one on the board. And then Oskar Irina, he's going to put himself up ahead of him. Karhalainen up into third. Partanen onto the second row. Where's Gernot Freesia going to be? Oh, well, he's going to be well down. I think Gernot just made a mistake in the S's. So his first time lap is not going to count.
Well, pressure's on then for Gernot Freesia to get a good grid position here. It's grid position so important in the Lotus 79 series, so the level of pace is so high, so overtaking is not always straightforward. Let's get Steve Bycroft over the line as he comes through, winding up to top gear. The man from Indiana, what can he do? A 146.511, and he goes to third spot.
And nicely done up into the second row. So who do we have among the first to come back around? I believe Granberg was the first to set an official time. So number 7, as we watch Seppa come up the backstretch, still yet to set one of his, I believe. Yes, he has not put a time in. In fact, is he going to be able to get a second one in? Yes, just barely, I think. He'll have just enough time to come back around before time runs out. So through the Casio triangle, the Finn wings it towards the start-finish line, keeps it tucked up to the inside wall, a 46.4, and that is going to bump him ahead of Steve Bycroft into third.
Okay, so not the front row for our championship contender, Severi Seppa. Gernot Freesia, that's not his real pace, 152.5, so there's been a mistake there. Now, is that Gernot Freesia done? Has he had his 2 flying laps?
He may have.
Oh dear. As Rinna goes
that was his first lap, excuse me.
Okay, my apologies.
Looks like he is able to get around for a second one. Should have just enough time. So we're looking at Steve Bycroft now as he comes around. Simone actually up ahead of Rinna. We missed that one, our new pole sitter, bumping everybody else downwards. So Steve Bycroft through the Casio triangle has to make up about half a second to get onto the pole. Can he do it? A race winner in this series before. It's a 46.2. That's 0.3 quicker, but that's only good enough for third.
Oh, that pace is quick at the front. Thomas Simone, the only driver to get underneath the 1 minute 46 barrier. That's some serious hot pace. What can David Serrois do? 147.9 for the Canadian. That puts him 16th spot. Erwin Rothkrans comes around the Casio triangle in one of our favourites here in the GSRC commentary box, the Villiger Kiel Cigar sponsored machine.
Rothkrans puts it into 18th that time through. Next up is going to be Seppa on his second flying lap. The Finn is currently down to 4th after putting it in 3rd earlier on. I'm sure he'd like a front row start instead. It's a 46.3, 1/10 faster. That's not going to do it. He'll stay put in 4th.
Here comes Freesia then. What can he do as he comes around the final bend, heading down to the line, a 146.5. For Gernot, that puts him 5th. That's not too bad, and he'll be quite relieved, I would imagine, Joe.
Yeah, much more representative, and actually better than some of his previous qualifying. 5th place is pretty good, which is hard to believe that we're saying that considering how many times he's won in this series and how many championships he's had, as Mike Christopher Jr. is going to be our last one to put a time in and puts himself into 22nd. That will settle our grid. So let's go through the starting order here today. It'll be Tomasz Simon in the first place with Oscar de Rina to his outside, completing the front row. Steve Bycroft will be in third, and Severi Seppa starts in fourth. Gernot Friesche, in the last moment, manages to put the number one in fifth, with Martin Granberg, our points leader, starting next to him in sixth. Carl Villeneuve starts seventh, and Pauli Kalevi Partanen will be in eighth. Timo Karhalainen will be ninth, and then it's Michael de Turk rounding out your top 10.
Starting from 11th will be Jukka Tolonen alongside Dennis Shanik. Row 7 sees John Stevens and Timothy Reed. Row 8 will be Alexis Tapiavico and Jean-Francois Mata. Row 9 will be David Serrois and Dustin Gilland. And row 10, Erwin Rotkranz and Andreas Henkel.
Daniel Bankers, pleased not to be last in qualifying in top split, according to him, in 21st. Mike Christopher in 22nd, and Keith Herner in 23rd. Then it's Pablo Suarez, P24, and Barry West rounding out the field of 25. All of them put times in today, so everybody managed to get something representative down as we wait for the last couple of the drivers to get themselves onto the grid. I see the outside of our front row, I guess inside technically, Oscar de Rina already out there, but we're waiting for our pole sitter to put himself in his slot. Hopefully he gets out there soon, because we're starting to run a little bit short on time here. Might be doing some last minute tweaks to what he feels he needs on the setup. Jean-Francois Maté also not out there. Mike Christopher still waiting to put himself onto the grid. And now we've got our pole sitter on. David Serrois, another one that seems to be biding his time before he places himself out there. There we go. Just one more car to go, then we get going with round 3 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. Not seeing Mike Christopher out there, so he might be electing to start from pit lane. There we go. All right, all cars are on the grid. The engines start to rev. The lights come up. Green flag is out. It's a decent start for Shimon. Looks like Rina is good, as so is Seppa's. Suddenly, Steve Bycroft is swamped off the start. Martin Granberg going to sneak inside of him into fourth place. And behind them, almost 3 wide. Looks like a little bit of a checkup. One car almost going off. There we've got someone in the grass. It's a yellow machine. I can't tell who it is, but otherwise, I think we've managed to avoid disaster.
I actually think there might have been an engine blow up there for that. Like I said, I didn't quite get which car that was, a yellow machine, but it looked like the engine blowing. There was certainly enough smoke pluming out the back. Well, that might be one Cosworth DFE engine down, but our pole sitter away at the front. So who is going to take this one here at Suzuka as they head through the second Degner up towards the hairpin, and all running very, very quietly, just in flying formation so far.
Up at the front, Shimon keeping about half a second between himself and Rina. Seppa equally distant behind them. And you get to Martin Granberg in fourth, who finds himself under pressure from Gernot Friesche. Despite having a very good start, it seems that Granberg's going to have to fight to keep this one. They come onto the backstretch for the first time towards 130R, which makes me wonder here, Peter, how much are they going to struggle with the wake to keep close to the car ahead?
Well, this is the thing. Whoa, Gernot Friesche are not worried about it. It goes to look up the inside at 130R. Decided just backs out of it at the very last moment, and that's going to be interesting to see how that, of course, the aerodynamics are absolutely vital here at Suzuka. The drivers will be leaning on every last pound of pressure that those wings and also the underground aerodynamics can keep that car stuck to the ground. But if you follow too close to the car in front, it can kind of, whoa, big oversteer from Gernot Friesche there. He's definitely in the mood to get by. He doesn't want these front 3 guys, Simon, Rina, and Seppa, to get away.
Wonder if Friesche does not feel like that 5th place is totally representative of what this car can do. He seems to be in a hurry to try and make some positions. We had one driver with a spin out of the first corner. It's Andreas Hankel. Don't need to go to it. He's gotten it going once again. And Karhalainen, for some reason, has not started this race. He has been in pit lane since the green flag fell. We continue to ride on board with our 5th place driver, Gernot Friesche, trying to chase down the top 4. But since his early charges, he seems to have fallen off of Granberg now.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit more comfortable on the cold tyre compared to Granberg. And now that the tyres have come in, the Goodyear tyre, they're just getting a little bit more comfortable, and Granberg now getting a little bit going again. But a brilliant onboard shot there with Gernot Friesche, just showing how precise and how smooth he is. He looks like he's driving down the shops for a pint of milk.
I'm trying to see if I can figure out. It was Timo Karhalainen that blew his engine. So good catch on that one, Peter. Just went back and checked now, and it was indeed, unfortunately, the heart of that car expiring and failing him here at the start. As we come down to the Casio Triangle, Shimon starts to see a little bit bigger number 4 car in his mirrors. Rinne is putting the pressure on.
Indeed, yeah. Oskari Rinne, Thomas Simon, Severi Seppa. This is much more of the usual cast of frontrunners here in the Lotus 79 series. And to me, Joe, that's not necessarily a surprise, because Suzuka, if you speak to any racing driver, those who have competed here, they will tell you this is a proper driver circuit. You just look through the S's here. You've got to be so precise, but also so brave. You've got to trust that the car is going to go. You're dancing on the limit of edge of grip on the tyre, and well, it's not a surprise that the cream really is rising to the top here.
We had a pass for P4. Friesche did make it happen into turn 1 this time, past Martin Granberg. Did not want to sit around. Already Martin's got Steve Bycroft on his gearbox. So just outside of our podium, there is quite a bit of a battle going. We're watching from Steve's perspective as they slow it up into the hairpin. Can't quite get close enough to attack here. I wonder if we could jump off of this too, because it looks like Partanen and De Turk also in a very tight fight just behind them.
Yeah, you can't afford any kind of mistake here, because the field is so densely packed together. We're only on lap 3, but very close. So if you just need the tiniest, there's a big lockup from someone there.
That was Villeneuve. Villeneuve often losing multiple positions. That was all on his own. Spinning it in spoon curve.
Oh, goodness me. His tyre will be shaped like a spoon now as well, because, oh dear, that was a big old lock. Oh, it's a spin, actually. My apologies. Yeah. Oh, God, yeah, the big spin. Now, that might have looked slightly clumsy, but it's very easy to do. You just need to put the tiniest portion of the tyre just onto the paint, and there's a lot of artificial grass there on the outside, which is so slippy, even in the dry, of course. So very easy to do there, but recovers without damage, thankfully.
And Bycroft is also going to get by Granberg. Martin slipping backwards in the early stages, 2 laps in a row that he has been demoted a position into turn 1. So Steve is now free as well. Well, Gernot, who has got the clean air, isn't really catching up to Seppa like we may have expected him to. Things may be settling into where the driver's pace would elicit, at least for this portion of the race. Coming through Dunlop into the very scary Degner 1 and 2.
Yeah, the Degner 1, Degner 2, named after Ernst Degner, the East German, who raced for the MZ factory and actually was smuggled out of East Germany by Suzuki in return for some 2-stroke motorbike engineering secrets, which the MZ factory were so famous for, and that is why the Japanese motorcycle industry is as successful as it is today.
Things that I learn when I'm commentating with Peter Mackay. Let's look at De Turk fighting with Partanen. In fact, Michael just had a bit of an off and spoon curve, but he didn't get scooped up like we saw with Villeneuve. Instead, he gets a nice launch down the backstretch, drafting on Partanen. Can he withstand the buffeting coming through 130R? He's going to be right on top of him. Oh, that car looks as smooth as ever. They break up into the Casio Triangle, and as close as he's getting, he still can't quite get it done, but a little bit wide there for the Finn. and Paoli's going to have to try and get the great launch onto the front stretch. He does, still denying to Turk. So both drivers making little mistakes here and there.
I have to say, just riding on board there with the Turk, I love the power on oversteer of these cars. When you ask for the power from this Cosworth DFE V8 engine, it is naturally aspirated, but it does give its power quite aggressively, almost in a slightly old school turbocharged manner. But when it lights up, oh my goodness, it just comes alive. And even with these big fat white tires,
we have a car upside down. Jean-Francois Mattei has flipped upside down, and I think maybe he did this on his own. Let's see if we can get a replay. I think he spun out of turn 2.
Okay, so let's get a look. Oh, did he get a help there? Possibly.
No,
he was certainly a
think he
car
just
close
hooked the
behind,
glass.
but... Okay, let's get a look then. We're riding on board in Dougie Beard's helicopter. Let's have a look.
Someone was definitely challenging from behind.
Yeah, no, on his own. Yeah, on his own. Oh, now Jonathan Ray actually crashed there in the wet at the Suzuka 8-hour last year. Still won the race though.
Sometimes you can come away from those things, but I don't think flipping upside down is one that will work out this time. Meanwhile, Simone leading by half a second over Rinna. Are these now our two main protagonists in this championship? They have, in the past, been close and fighting one another. They don't have Gernot Friesche to worry about, at least for this race, for the time being. Maybe Gernot could pick up the pace as the car comes into the setup. But currently, he is not a threat. Seppa, instead, is the one in third, a full second and a half back from this pair. There you can see him in the background. Yeah,
Seppa's kind of, he's kind of marooned like an uninhabited island on a Finnish lake right now, is Severi Seppa. But remember, he's the man who's really at the kind of championship, leader de facto at the moment. So Simone and Rinna have got a little bit of room to make up, and it doesn't seem that Severi Seppa can hang on to them. But I guess, Joe, it's a long season. We're in week 4 of 12, so there's plenty of time ahead, and Seppa can just click off these solid performances. He doesn't necessarily have to really throw caution to the wind to catch up with Simone and Rinna. He's got a little bit of that advantage in his pocket to play with.
To start, at least, I have a feeling if this repeats itself, though, and they keep running away from him, he'll start to lose that advantage, and very quickly, because we do have drop weeks, don't forget. Oh, and what's going on with the Turk and Partanen here? He manages to get to the inside of him, coming out of the exit of the hairpin, but that switches to the outside around the long sweeper, heading up to Spoon Curve. He stays in the slipstream, pokes his nose back out, but he can't quite get inside of the fin. The Turk, almost gets into the back of him. Coming through the middle of Spoon, he'll still stick with it and starts to accelerate up the backstretch.
Wow, that was close. Good heads up driving there from the Turk. He just backed out of it, and actually I think he actually even had to get on the brakes there to not plough into the back of Partanen. I think he got a shock at the difference in mid-corner speed, so it looks like the Turk has a bit of the pace. Is he going to have a look Ayrton Senna style or Alain Prost style, I should say, at the Cassia Triangle? No, he makes the calculations and decides not to.
Still with it, and he is making sure that Pauli has to sweat this one out. He's working hard to defend on De Turk as the New Yorker continues to look left and right, trying to see if there's any way past the fin. He gets very close through turns 1 and 2, but now they hit the S's, and this is definitely single file.
Yep, it is through the S's. There's nothing you can do. In fact, if you get too close to the car in front, it can really make life difficult with the aerodynamic wake, the dirty air, as it's often referred to, is coughing out the back of the car. It's not from the engine, it's actually just the turbulent air that comes through that's been disturbed by the aerodynamics of this car that comes out the back, and it really disturbs the car following behind. And you hear it a lot right now in modern Formula 1, that it really spoils overtaking. With the Lotus 79, it's not so bad because the grip is so much low. Well, there's definitely no debating, Joe, who's got the better mid-corner speed, and that is De Turk right now.
I was kind of wondering that. I wonder if he's got the wing cranked up just that bit more than Partanen, and maybe that's what's making it tough for him to try and execute this pass. He's fallen back a little bit for the first time in a few laps, giving some breathing space to Pauli. As they come up the back stretch, no challenge this time through. Let's head back up to Freesia. I mentioned that he didn't seem to be catching Seppa. Well, I also mentioned he could maybe come into the 4 because at times his setups like later in the race. Well, look at this. 0.4 of a second between himself and third place. And he is towing along Steve Bycroft.
Yeah, the wily Steve Bycroft there. He's playing it very, very clever in that number 2 car, with Gernot Fritzsche in the number 1 machine. Now, that is not the championship, the reigning champion number 1 plate. That is the first seed, so that means that Gernot is the highest rated iRacing driver in this race. And I have to say, Joe, yeah, it looks like Severi Seppa's in a world of pain here. Rinne and Simon are way up the road, and you know, Severi Seppa's got to worry about Gernot Fritzsche, but Bycroft right there too. And a third place would be acceptable for him for his championship mount, but to lose a couple of places and finish 5th, that would be a little bit more disastrous.
It'll start to eat away that much quicker. Yeah, Fritzsche, for those curious, just shy of an 8K I rating. For those in the know, that is just jaw-dropping. Definitely among the best on the service. So Seppa is going to be sweating. He's only rated his 6th with a 4,700 I rating himself. Ooh, just a little bit off the apex, off of Spoon Curve. You saw the same thing I did, Peter.
Oh yeah, just when he was asking for the power, you know, these cars have got so much performance. Bear in mind, this is over 40 years old, this car, when it was designed and released in 1978. But look, here comes Fritzsche. Look at that. Severi goes to the inside line to defend. Into the Casio triangle they go, and Seppa just keeps Gernot Fritzsche at bay. But Gernot Fritzsche is showing his danger spot there. Oh dear, that is close indeed. But yes, just coming back to the exit of Spoon Curve there, Seppa, we know he likes a car trimmed out, we know he likes the car running loose. Well, that certainly was. When he asked for the power, it just shook its tail just a little bit, just giving a little warning, saying, you know, I can do so much, but I'm not Superman.
Impressive how well Seppa even got off of the corner of Casio. On the front stretch, managed to deny Fritzsche, who I would have expected to pull an over-under from managing to get through. Another spin out of turn 1. This is multiple cars that have been having trouble there. Self-made incident for Jukka Tolinen in the number 20. Don't need a replay. He's hit the wall hard, but I think it appears he might be able to continue on.
Got quite a lot of damage there, and he's just has a big moment there just when he gets back going again. I think that could be a trip to pit lane, unfortunately, for Tolinen. But back we go then. Severi Seppa. It appears that Seppa and Fritzsche just have their little spots around the circuit where they're quicker. Severi Seppa's opened up a little bit of a gap, but coming out of Spoon Curve, let's see, Severi Seppa just takes that slightly wider exit, maybe just struggling for grip on the corner exit. And look, here comes Fritzsche now. He's right in the draft. 130R is flat, even in the draft. He shows himself on the inside. Gernot Fritzsche definitely gathering momentum. They've dropped Bycroft in the back of the shot. Now here goes Fritzsche. Is he going to have a look? No, Seppa very late on the brakes, but runs wide. Doesn't have any more room, but just manages to get the switch back and defend. Brilliant racing.
Wow, big slide from the number 6, and this one definitely hurt him. He's a lot slower down the front stretch as they come up to turn 1. Fritzsche could have another look. He is going to stick his nose in, given space at the first apex, and it's not going to be enough. Oh, but a little wide once again, and Seppa has been shook. He's been scared off of the racing line through a few corners now. Clearly, Fritzsche is getting into his head.
Oh, big time. Yeah, Seppa's definitely going well out of his comfort zone, knowing that Gernot Fritzsche's got some real pace, and Severi Seppa actually having to just lunge on the brakes and just try and gather it up at the apex or somewhere near the apex to try and keep Gernot behind. He can't leave himself exposed by braking too early, but you're right on the limit of what is possible as they come into the hairpin. not as good an overtaking opportunity as some might believe. Good opportunity to crash into one another more than anything. But up we go towards Spoon Curve once more, and Gernot Fritzsche a lot closer than he was the previous lap.
Just an update, fans of Tolmanen, he did have to take a tow. It was too much in the end. As we come through Spoon Curve, this has been the site of some excitement between this pair coming off the corner. Seppa desperately trying to run away from Gernot Fritzsche. I think he's that much closer this time by. He could have another look down into Casio Triangle. No, into the 130R. He's going to put his nose in there. He'll be on the outside of the Casio Triangle. Back to the racing line. Seppa keeps it under control and keeps that third place. But for how long?
Oh my word. I thought he was going to go up the inside of 130R. There was Gernot Fritzsche in the James Hunt Marlborough machine. Wow, that was close. And actually, I think, what do you reckon, Joe? I think actually Gernot maybe showed his hand a little bit too early. Severity Seppa then showed and going and saying, okay, I can cover you now. So maybe we know that Gernot's very, very clever. We know he's a racer. He's got a big playbook. He's got plenty more tricks to play, I'm sure. And bearing in mind, we're not even half race distance yet.
Yeah, I think that was just testing the waters there from Gernot. Meanwhile, we've got a good battle going on between Shanning and Reed. This is for 11th position, and I believe they have swapped spots, or they did temporarily. And I think Reed got it back from Shanning.
Yeah, this is a real proper pack here going through. It's a 4-car wolf pack here in going through the S's at Suzuka down towards the Degners, but just shows you in this Lotus 79 series, you just cannot afford the smallest mistake because you will just be swamped by the depth of field that we have here, particularly now with such a popular paddock, such a lot of cars, a lot of drivers, that we often now get a split. So there's too many drivers for one race, so the top drivers go into the top split, and that's what we broadcast here on the Global SimRacing Channel. So you get the very best drivers in the world in this car here on iRacing.com.
The irony is none of these cars are actually a wolf, so not quite a wolf pack.
Well, I can give you a tenuous link though, Joe. Peter Warr, who won the inaugural sports car Grand Prix here at Suzuka back in 1962 at the wheel of a Lotus, he was the Lotus manager until 76 and then went to Wolf and chose a pretty poor time to move away from Lotus because, of course, 2 years later, the Lotus 79 turned up.
Yeah, sometimes the timing is just not with you. As they come onto the front stretch. Yeah.
He's the Fernando Alonso of team managers, maybe.
Not something I think you want to be known as necessarily. Poor Fernando, what a reputation. Maybe Renault will serve him better this season as John Stevens leads Timothy Reed, Dennis Shaney, and David Serrois in the mid-pack. Now, one thing worth mentioning, starting to gain on the back of them and in the battle of his own, is Mike Christopher Jr. ahead of Dustin Gilliland. Now, this is an interesting one. Here is a driver that's come from the world of short track racing, U.S. short track oval racing. Whoa! And handling the car like a short tracker in some cases there. Going from open wheelers and the modifieds here to a Lotus 79 and adapting quite well because this is top split, so 15th place is not bad.
You could say it's in his genes, Joe.
Yeah, very much so. Of course, the son of Ted Christopher, or excuse me, nephew of Ted Christopher, carrying on the legacy there. A rather famous modified driver here in the States, up in the Northeast. Going back to 10th place, John Stevens now has Timothy Reed in the slipstream.
Here we go. This is 4 cars through. And of course, not really much vision. It is good that you've got kind of aerodynamics to spare here through 130R, something you don't say very often, but then straight into the Casio Triangle, hard on the brakes, and you can always try and just line up a lunge here. But, Joe, these drivers are also evenly matched that just making that move is so tricky.
Yeah, and if any of them tries to make a move, if they've got someone behind them, so unless you're fourth in line, David Serrois I think you're going to get swamped by everybody waiting in the train. Down through 1 and 2, getting so close mid-corner. Timothy Reed is looking very similar to what we saw before between DeTurk and Parton, and having a bit more downforce cranked into it. They come through the S's, and yeah, he is holding well behind him. Not something you'd expect in this portion where you really need the downforce.
Yeah, you don't want that front wing to be disturbed with dirty air. It is not what you want at all. In theory, a car with more ground effect aerodynamics should be less susceptible to that effect, but still seems to cause a little bit of a problem for the drivers. But through they go down into the hairpin, and you can see that Reed in that number 18 car, he is really keen to get going, but really gets a lot of wheel spin there on the power. And here comes Shanning in the Brabham, in the Parmalat Brabham Alfa Romeo, decides to back out. So Reed has got some strong pace, but Stevens doing a brilliant job of defending the position.
Oh, we're going to go back to Gernot Frische. He had another look at Seppa, but it wasn't successful. He'll get another bite down the front stretch into turn 1. As they approach, he's about 2 car lengths back, 1 car length back, and he runs out of straightaway. Starting to get frustrating, I'm sure, for the multi-time champion. He knows that more than the podium could be there, but he is stuck.
Well, we know he's an ice-cool customer, is Gernot Frische, and so much experience at the wheel of this car. Oh, wow. And yeah, I think the impatience is maybe the word now, Joe, because this is the closest we've seen going through the high downforce section through the S's. So down towards Degner and really showing himself large in Severi Seppa's John Player Special Lotus mirrors. Down towards the hairpin they go again. And yeah, you've got to think that Gernot Frische is going to try and line that move up into the Casio Triangle, but is Severi Seppa wise to it now? Can he hold him off much longer? We do know that, of course, here in the Lotus 79 series, the respect between drivers is really absolute. So, Joe, we're not going to see any reckless dive bombing.
If we go about a minute ago, poor John Stevens, I said that you're going to get swamped in a battle. He lost 3 of the 4 places in about half a lap. And there you can, no, we don't have him on there. There he is. You can see he's now behind multiple of the cars that he was leading. Yeah, he's already lost 1 out of the Casio Triangle, down into turn 1, and he nearly loses it completely, threading the needle as he has to catch it onto the AstroTurf and barely fends off Tapia Vico in the process.
Wow, that was lucky there wasn't much more of an incident, more of a crash there, because yeah, that was unlucky for Stevens, but also lucky to not have a bit more of an incident as they flow through to the Casio Triangle. Looking at the car behind Stevens of Vico, that green Martini car. Normally, of course, Martini you see with the kind of blue, white and red, but I believe that was a special livery that was used for the Long Beach Grand Prix back in 1978.
And the battle between Gernot is getting closer. He had a look at Seppa into turn 1. Couldn't make it stick. He even tried it into the S's on the first left-hander into there and just couldn't quite make it happen. So interesting note about that green Martini livery. That was actually on the Lotus for, I think it was 1980.
Okay, very good. And of course, Essex cigarettes on there as well. Quite a lot of cigarette sponsors at this particular
in this era.
Yeah. So you know the money from Formula One has got to come from somewhere. It's either comes from tobacco companies or Russian teenagers.
Quote for the ages, Peter Mackay. Frische still on the tail of Severi Seppa, working hard for 3rd place. And so is Reed and Serrois, and a tight tussle here for what is 11th place. That is Serrois in the yellow ATS machine, just ahead of Timothy Reed in the number 18, who closes in the 2nd apex, maybe a little too close, compromises his exit, but he's going to get the slipstream up the hill.
Yep, can he make the move down into Casio Triangle? You see him just gathering. Here comes Reed. We know that Reed's got a lot of pace. Oh, just loses a little bit through 130R. Can he make a lunge on the brakes? I tell you what, Reed has got some great pace, but just not able to capitalise. But tell you who has definitely benefited from this shuffle is Shanning in the number 16 machine in 10th position in that Brabham, the Parmalat Brabham. He is off. Oh, he is off like a yogurt that's been left in the fridge for 2 weeks.
And speaking of things being off, we finally get some sunshine out here. Lights have been turned out for quite some time as the clouds have been very overcast. But with the sun coming out, will we see that 27 degrees Celsius track temperature start to increase in the final 10 laps of this race through Dunlop Curve? Yeah, that Brabham is gone, as Dennis Shaney is not going to hang around. Oh, yes, he is, because he's going to lose it. Nearly runs it into the wall out of Degner 2, gives up 2 spots, but he'll keep the race going.
Yep, hangs on to it just. Let's get a look at it then here. Coming through Degner 1, and often it's, yes, gets it a little bit unsettled into Degner 1, a little bit of a bump on the inside, tries to throw it in Degner 2. Oh, and you see that a lot, don't you, Joe? You go through Degner 1, you get it wrong, and then trying to gather it up in time for Degner 2 is almost impossible, and you almost have to throw it in and hope for the best. And well, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst either. Most times you would see that car spearing straight into the wall.
Absolutely. I was going to say, usually I'm either on the wall to the right of the exit or just straight into the outside of Degner 2 as you hit that gravel. Oh, very close. He could get one of the spots back here as Reed is just ahead of him. Oh, but Shaney can't quite get his nose in. In fact, Reed almost got up to the side of David Serwan. In fact, I think he overshot the corner. Way too hot into there. Here comes Dennis around the outside. He's going to have to do it the hard way up into turns 1 and 2. The opening hairpin here. And he just doesn't have the straight line speed. The car falls backwards, goes for the over-under. Maybe he's trying to get a little clever here, but it's going to be the outside of the S's, and it's still not there.
Well, I tell you what, doesn't it? I've just noticed there, Shanning running the London Rowing Club colours on his helmet. Of course, those will know that. Those are the Hill family colours. Damon first, Graham Hill, and then Damon Hill. And, of course, Damon won his World Championship here in 1996 here at Suzuka. And who could remember I'll have to stop because I've got a lump in my throat from the great Murray Walker. There you go. Doesn't that look looks fantastic in the Alfa Romeo Brabham?
Yeah, I was going to say, it just feels very fitting. I don't think Graham ever ran for Brabham, did he?
No, he did not. Oh, yeah. Oh, he ran for BRM, which I always get them mixed up. Yes, he did. Yeah, for BRM.
And Reed's going to get overtaking Shaney with an excellent exit as we got a battle here on screen between Freisha and Seppa once again. And yet again, Gernot's going to be denied. He's got to be careful here. He keeps making attempts like that. I get the sense that Steve Bycroft is going to get an opportunity to grab fourth right back. Here we go. He was all the way alongside him, and I would have thought that would do it, but no.
Seppa is just fearless into there. He has just got no problem parking that car absolutely where he needs to be. This has been an amazing show of precision from the number 6 of Severi Seppa, and he's holding off the all-time great in the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. But you make a great point about Bycroft, Joe, because it's been Gernot Freisha who's had to do all the heavy lifting with Severi Seppa. But meanwhile, Steve Bycroft's just been having a nice little Sunday afternoon stroll in the Suzuka sunshine, because he's just able to watch these guys knock lumps out of each other. And I wonder, given now with the temperature going up slightly, Suzuka is very hard on tyres. It's a low grip surface, very high demand on the tyre. I wonder, might Bycroft have something up his sleeve later in the race?
I think if he sees an opportunity, he's going to take it. If I know Bycroft. And, and a mistake! That's going to do it. Freisha, after trying so hard for so many laps, gets it on a silver platter because Seppa spun it in Spoon Curve.
Well, for Severi Seppa, I mean, he resisted for such a long time, and he was right over the edge. We saw him run wide a lot. Oh, and just overcooks it onto the first part of Spoon Curve, the kind of double apex left, and spins out. But just a small mistake, and Seppen now back in 5th. So as mistakes go, it's not so high consequence, but I mean, I think we got to applaud Severi Seppa, Joe, because that was just pressure like you wouldn't believe from Gernot Fritzsche.
I concur. By the way, I don't know if you knew, Peter, we have a leader in this race. His name is Tomasz Simon. We haven't talked about him at all because it's not been a race up at the front. He's been keeping it at a distance from Oscar Irina, currently at about 4 seconds. So 1 and 2 have romped away while the last step on the podium was so fiercely contested. There is our leader in the Ferrari, and there is Oscar Irina also trailing behind in the Williams, trying to play catch up, but doesn't seem like he's got anything for him today. It's just calm race up at the front. Not so calm down for 11th, Dennis Schoening, still working this out. Now that he's gotten past Timothy Reed, he's lost a little ground to David Sirois ahead of him.
Yep, he has indeed. This has been a brilliant battle for the fringes of the top 10 here in this fantastic Grand Prix here at Suzuka. Now, I was looking back at Oskari Rinna. Is he still running the Andre Lotterer helmet design? I think he might be, which has got a Japanese characters on the top of it. Yes, it does. Yes, that's the Andre Lotterer helmet. Because Andre Lotterer actually done a lot of racing out in Japan. Used to live in Japan and actually won the Suzuka 1000 kilometers in when he raced in Super GT.
Ah, well, it's not quite a home track for Oskari, but I'm sure he'll feel a sense of pride with a podium here today for sure. If he can just hold on to this second place for a little bit longer. As we said, he's really got no challenge around him in these final 4 laps that are quickly counting down at this point. Let's go back to Tapia Vico in 14th. He's suddenly making John Stevens look in his mirrors a little bit more. Number 19 was very close to him, but man, down the straight, Alexis seeming to lack straight line speed.
Yeah, it doesn't take much with these cars. You just sometimes need just a slight bump or a slight nudge here or there, and it's amazing how much it can really hurt your straight line speed. Also, of course, with the amount of adjustment you have on these cars, and it's very, very tempting at Suzuka to just wind up the downforce to the absolute maximum, just put a load of wing on. But of course, then you really pay for it on the straights, and there's actually more full throttle straights here at Suzuka than you imagine. So whatever you gain in the S's, you really pay for it on the straights.
And he is gaining in the S's. He's right on top of him. Now you can see how close to the gearbox of John Stevens Alexis continues to be. And he starts to drop back as soon as they get to a long acceleration portion. Braking down into the Degners, closes back in. In fact, very strong through there.
Oh my word, backing it in there. Oh my goodness me, fantastic stuff there from Stevens, backing it in again, and not quite so in control that time. Well, we know that Suzuka is famous for the 8-hour motorcycle race. He's backing it in like he was on a Yamaha superbike there. Oh, these cars are so, even though they've got so much downforce, they are still really expressive to watch.
Bad news for fans of Erwin Rotkrins. He is unfortunately had to take a tow after losing it out of Degner 2. As we head back up here, we got a challenge into the Casio Triangle with the number 10. This is De Turk and Villeneuve.
Very, very close there through the Casio Triangle. Amazing we haven't had any contact there because it's so easy to do. But look at this, drafting along right by the wall. Great advertisement for Bridgestone tyres there. Whoa, coming down into turn 1 and 2 and just holding off there is De Turk, but Villeneuve all over the back of him in that number 10 Gitanian machine.
All the pit members with the pit boards had to pull them out of the way all of a sudden. They were right up against it as De Turk ahead of Carl Villeneuve. Remember, he was challenging Partanen before now he's 6.8 seconds behind. So Michael must have made a major mistake at some point to be this far behind that we unfortunately weren't able to see. I do see at least one lap that was about 3 seconds off. That was lap 18, so must have been a little bit ago. So I doubt we'll be able to get a replay.
Okay, so 3 laps to go here at Suzuka, and like you say, if you Joe, if you're leading a race,
sorry,
like
Stevens made a mistake and finally gave it up to Tom. Oh, and once again, did he have a slowdown penalty or something here? Stevens just blows it up. Here, watch this. I'm not seeing any major mistake. Yeah, and Vico has to even take a wild dive to make sure not to run into him. That was interesting.
Vico did well not to plough straight into the back of him, because you're carrying so much momentum there. If you get the Degno right, that's why it's such an annoying but also such a satisfying corner when you get it right. Oh my word, that was close. Also, talking of the Turk, you just look at how much you're having to run on, actually almost miss the apex completely to try and keep the driver behind you. But here comes Villeneuve now in the draft along by the wall. Bridgestone battle axe, there you go, another spot for those guys. Down into turn 1 they go, side by side. Oh, this is wonderful motorsport. Oh, and Villeneuve tries his best, but the Turk has got the door shut just in the nick of time. Oh my word, wonderful, respectful racing, but so close.
Villeneuve's only got 2 more laps to try and complete the pass as well, so time is running out, and the Turk with brilliant defending here in the dying stages of the race. We are down to 21 of our 25 starters still on the circuit, and every one of those, if I'm seeing this right, are still on the lead lap, interestingly.
Yeah, that tells you everything you need to know about the quality of drivers in the field, I would say. But Thomas Simone, we will get you your airtime, we promise. He's been so perfect in this race. Perfect is the only adjective I can use for this drive from Thomas Simone. Oskari Rinna pushed him early, but he's just clipped off those relentlessly fast laps in the number 3 Ferrari, and he takes the white flag signifying the last lap. But and puts in the fastest lap of the race just for good measure. You know you've run a perfect race when you don't get much TV time.
Now, Bycroft is getting ever closer to Gernot Frische, so I wonder if he has eyes on a podium finish himself. It's one thing to catch a car, it's another to pass him, as we've seen multiple times during today's race. Also, Villeneuve and the Turk taking the white flag right now as we ride on board with Bycroft through the S's, starts to lose that ground once again.
So has Steve Bycroft been playing the game all the way through? Has he got the tyre to be able to overcome Gernot Frische? This has been, I have to say, this has been a glorious return to form for Gernot Frische. He's always been thereabouts the last few races, but this has been him back to his absolute best. Even though, okay, it's not a win, but my goodness me, this has been a spectacular performance from Gernot Frische in the number 1 car. And look at that, Joe. Just when the question was asked by Steve Bycroft, Gernot Frische gives him the answer and just stretches the gap in almost instant fashion.
Up at the front, just a couple more corners for Tomas Simon with a 5-second gap over Oskar Rinna. I believe this will be win number 1 on the season for Tomas. So hopefully this will launch him up the championship order and he can begin his challenge proper into the Casio Triangle for the final time. And out of that chicane, Tomas Simon will take victory here today in Japan for round 3 of the Sunday Grand Prix Series. Rinna follows him home in 2nd place. And Frische, you're right, he just turned it up when he needed to hold Bycroft at arm's length to finish on the podium today. What a drive.
Brilliant stuff from Gernot Frische. Really impressive. Bycroft chased him the whole way. We also got Seppa there coming over the line in 5th. More championship points for him. And wow, talk about laying down the answer as well. Michael de Turkey had Carl Villeneuve right up underneath his rear wing, and just when he needed to turn on the heat, off he went. So a few drivers just keeping a little bit in reserve, Joe. Some proper chess games here at Suzuka.
Yeah, Villeneuve, we didn't see it on screen, but was paying a little homage to his namesake, trying to hang it out the outside and sliding the car around to turn one last time. It didn't work as he hoped. That's why he lost time. And we had all but one car finish on the lead lap. I think Barry West, the last one that's going to be able to come home, completing all of our laps. So I believe that's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. So don't go away. Welcome back to Suzuka International Racing Course. Round 3 of the Sunday Grand Prix Series gave us a classic, much like the track. But it was Thomas Simon who romped away, unchallenged for pretty much the whole race, ahead of Oscar Urena. Things getting back a little bit to normal up at the front of the series. Gernot Friesche as well, taking it back to maybe a few seasons past, in fact, finishing third with Steve Bycroft in P4. Severny Seppa, second place coming into today's race, as he's still going to be there coming away from it. Martin Grandberg was sixth, and Pauli Partanen was seventh. Then Michael de Turk, who was behind Partanen for much of the race, unfortunately lost out towards the end, had to settle for eighth, just ahead of the charging Carl Villeneuve in ninth. David Serrois managed the top 10, climbing up from 17th.
Dennis Shanning in the Parmalat Brabham Alfa Romeo finished in 11th. Timothy Reed 12th. John Stevens 13th. Alexis Tapia Vico in the green Martini machine in 14th, with Daniel Banker in 15th. Pablo Suarez was 16th, followed by Dustin Galland, Mike Christopher Jr., Keith Herner, and Barry West, rounding out the top 20.
From there, Andreas Henkel a lap down, as well as Erwin Brotkins, our first DNF. Everybody behind them did not see the checkered flag, sadly, today. Oscar Urena is ready to talk to us, though, our second place finisher, who just didn't seem to have enough pace to hold on towards the end of the race, settled into second and cruised on home. Oscar, it appeared that you were at least trying to keep Tomas honest at the start of things, but man, it looked really tough to try and hang with that Ferrari today.
Yeah. Hi, Joe. I mean, yeah, it for sure. It was hard, and I was able to keep up. He was doing small mistakes at the first 10 laps, so I was able to keep up. But after that, at the halfway point he just shut off, and I had no answer to that. So he was just faster today.
It's been such a bizarre start to the season with how many drivers had troubles at Long Beach, and so we've got such a mixed up championship order. Does this kind of turn things around for you then, and feel like you've got it right on the back on the right track rather?
Yeah, for sure. I think I can always be at the top 3, top 5 when I just show up. But yeah, some drop weeks will hurt me a bit, but just have to finish every race, so those don't matter so much.
Speaking of which, next week going to Phillip Island. Boy, that's going to be an interesting one for the Lotus 79. How are you feeling heading off to Australia?
I mean, it's a great track. I mean, it's so fast, sweeping corners, and I haven't driven this car there, so it will be interesting.
No doubt about that. And I'm sure we'll get plenty more motorcycle facts from Peter Mackay. Still, second place and a podium, as you said. Good points for today. Anybody you want to thank for being able to spray the champagne?
Not really. Like you guys again, I always want to thank you because it's really great that your broadcast is really good, and it's fun to watch it afterwards. And yeah, you guys know what you're doing, so keep that up.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. That was Oscar de Urena. And we are going to close it out by thanking the Lotus 79 community ourselves for bringing us back for another season of coverage. We really do enjoy getting to cover these vintage series. And thank you goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that we have listed on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And a big thank you to Peter, Sean, and Dougie, our team today. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. We've got a merchandise store. If you'd like to help support us, it's gsrc.storenv.com, but we've got a link in the description below if you want to click it. But while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube so that you don't miss a moment. The next race, as we mentioned, it will be Phillip Island, Sunday, January 10th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. More open wheel action, but at a slightly slower pace. The Absolute Beginners Leagues will be going to Watkins Glen, and that'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.